It was a call for mobilization to create the heavy industries the Soviet Union needed to defend itself in a hostile world. Construction worker Tatyana Fyodorova was held up as an example to others.
We live so well. Our hearts are so joyful. In no other country are there such happy young people as us. We're the happiest young people. And on behalf of all young people, I want to thank our party and our dear comrade Stalin for this joy that we have. Stalin set a task. Build this or build that. And thanks to the fact that people trusted him and this enthusiasm of young people, it was possible. Remember, this was a country where people were illiterate, lived in virtual darkness, wore birch-bark shoes. Even now, I think it's like something out of a fairy tale. How was it possible at one of the most difficult times to raise these great construction sites? It was only possible through the unity of the people and the love of the people for their idol. Because for us, Stalin was an idol.
With so much to build so quickly, workers were sent all over the country. Tens of thousands went beyond the Ural Mountains deep into Asia to start construction of a giant new steelworks. They saw themselves as pioneers. For Valentina Mikova and Mikhail Arkhipov, these were the most fulfilling days of their lives.
На строительстве домен был один экскаватор. И то плохой.
There was one excavator at the blast furnace building site, and it wasn't always reliable. So we dug all the foundations by hand.
Понимаете, копошатся люди.
The trench would be teeming with people. One takes the earth, throws it to the level above. The second person throws it to the third to the fourth, up to 5 or 6 levels. That was how we got the earth out of the trench. Then it was taken away in wheelbarrows.
Magnitogorsk was modeled on a plant in Gary, Indiana. Among the workers were thousands of forced laborers, and all lived in terrible conditions.
The beds were in one large room, shared by up to 200 people, often whole families together. There were wooden lavatories outside and a communal kitchen. Water was rationed, and we had to get that outside as well. I think that we, the first construction workers of Magnitogorsk, were united by the difficulties we all faced. We were already schooled in our Soviet traditions. We felt the whole economy was ours, that we were the bosses, that we were working for ourselves.
The burst of construction and spending in the Soviet Union came during the Great Depression in the West. Many of the jobless liked what they heard about communism. It sounded like a worker's paradise.
I became a communist in short because of what I saw around me here in the United States of America. There was misery, there were children going to bed hungry, there was poverty, and there was no reason for it. We were the richest country in the world, and I saw communists out on the streets demonstrating and trying to do something about it. And that would sum up why I joined the Communist Party. Well, I believe what was going on in the Soviet Union was a noble experiment. You stop and think for a moment of what is the aim of socialism? It's to end all exploitation. It's to put an end to wars. It's to build a system of cooperation instead of confrontation. It's to do away with the extremely rich on one side and the extremely poor on the other side.
The Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw toured the Soviet Union, visiting factories and farms with Lady Astor. Shaw wrote in a hotel guest book, "Tomorrow I leave this land of hope and return to our Western countries of despair." When he got back, he claimed Russia had been maligned.
We have rebuked her ungodliness, and now the sun shines on Russia as on a country with which God is well pleased, whilst his wrath is heavy on us, and we don't know where to turn for comfort or approval.
Soviet newsreels showed Stalin as a genial figure, head of the family of nationalities that made up the new worker state. But he was ruthless with anyone who challenged him. He demanded obedience at all levels. The church was a challenge to the communists. For millions of Russians, it was still a source of strength and offered the only alternative system of beliefs. But the communists were atheists and sought to remove the challenge by abolishing the church. Village priests were ridiculed and harassed and forced to renounce their faith. Israel Chernitsky was a communist activist in his village in the Ukraine.
Пришел батюшка, снял с себя рясу, да, и положил на стул.
The priest came in, took off his cassock and put it on the table. They called the barber, and he cut off his hair. And the priest announced, "There is no God. I've lied to you." The peasant sitting there cried out, "How could you? We built you a house, and now you're saying there's no God."
The greatest threat to the life of the peasants came when Stalin decided to end private farming. He thought their methods were too inefficient to raise the food the country needed. A campaign was organized against the richer peasants, the so-called kulaks, who were said to be opposing Stalin's plans. Kulak farmers were rounded up.
Зашли мы в дом, комиссия, человек 5-6, я уже не помню. И секретарь организации...
We went into the house, the commission of 5 or 6 people, and the secretary of the party organization announced, "According to the decision of our meeting, your family is de-kulakized. Put all your valuables on the table. I warn you, no hysterics. I've got strong nerves. We'll stand firm." A woman burst into tears and cursed the authorities.
Власть